A Hedera Governing Council member by the name of FIS is also listed as a FedNow services provider. Why is that so important? Well, my name is Wade. Welcome back to the channel. If you're holding H-bar, I need you to watch this video to the very end. I'm going to show you a series of connections that should leave you without any doubt that soon we will hear an announcement about Hedera participating in the FedNow instant payment system. And I'm going to tell you why. Non-bank participants are not allowed to use FedNow. However, they can offer services to qualified banking participants. This is the most important detail out of all of the FedNow documentation that you want to know, because this connects the cryptos that we hold to the biggest instant payment system launch in the last 10 years. Temenos, working with XRP. Temenos is a FedNow service provider that you can see here. This list was posted as of this morning, the official launch date, and you can see Temenos, right? Let's jump back over to the tweet. FIS, working with HBAR, and you can see here, FIS, service provider supporting payments processing for financial institutions. An additional detail that I'm going to lay all out in the FedNow video that we'll be releasing on DHN Crypto Docs in the coming days is the federated member banks that Fluent Finance gives direct access to XDC to through the US Plus stablecoin. Remember, when we were digging into that, we could not find the exact names. All we knew was that the banks involved were FDI insured FDI member banks. I'm pretty sure there are a few FDI member banks on this list. Remember, when it comes to FedNow, this is going to be used for all US banks. All US banks. And then here's another tidbit here too. So when you go to frequently asked questions posted on the Federal Reserve website, question number 19 states the FedNow service will be available to depository institutions eligible to hold accounts at reserve banks under applicable federal statutes and rules. So we're talking the 12 Federal Reserve banks here in the United States, plus all of these smaller banks and credit unions that work up under them. The next sentence states participants will be able to designate a service provider or agent to submit or receive payment instructions on their behalf. Participants will also be able to settle payments in the account of a correspondent if they choose to do so. Merchants, consumers, or non-bank payment service providers can access the service through depository institutions as they do today with other payment systems. That opens the door for our favorite crypto projects to get involved. So now that I have shown you crypto's way in, let me show you Hedera's way in directly. It all goes back. Well, the first thing I'm going to show you is this right here. We're going to back to March of this year. Private sector commitments to advance democracy. We reported this on the channel. Basically, the biggest tech companies in the United States came together under the Presidential Initiative for Democratic Renewal. This is basically setting standards for how the U.S. are going to approach emerging technologies in the next decade. And you want to know something very interesting? The only DLT related project that was brought into this initiative was Hedera. I don't think that's a coincidence, especially when you add this little nugget on top of it. Longtime Hedera holders and watchers of this channel, you're going to remember this one. MTech, Hedera hash graph, and the project New Dawn. So back in 2021, Hedera partnered with a fabulous company by the name of MTech. What MTech does is create infrastructure for financial institutions and financial service providers to connect them to DLT, digital dollar infrastructures, right? Let's take a look at their website so that way you can get an idea. Keep in mind though, as you look at this website, all of this is running on Hedera. All right. All of this is running on Hedera. You can see here MTech for central banks, MTech for financial service providers. These integrations are using the Hedera consensus service and the Hedera token service. And as you can see, MTech's API-first approach powers a modern interface between central banks, regulators, and financial service providers through their sandbox, compliance, reporting, and CBDC infrastructure, and they're partnered with industry leaders, IBM, Hedera, Microsoft, MasterCard. I don't need to say anything else, ladies and gentlemen. Microsoft and IBM are also a part of this presidential initiative on democratic renewal. Now, the whole thing about HBAR and MTech was this here. And I'm going to scroll to the top so you can see the cover of this. Project New Dawn, working paper, digital cash infrastructure for all. This was collaborated by members of the New York Federal Reserve, IBM, Microsoft, big players involved, as of course, Hedera. And the diagram that we landed on when I moved over here, we're going to touch on that in a second, but let me read this to you. Project New Dawn is an initiative spearheaded by MTech, sponsored to drive an inclusive and structured engagement with congressional and industry stakeholders from various fields and backgrounds to ultimately present the technical implementation of a digital cash infrastructure. That digital cash infrastructure, you can see here, is described as such. The first two were the current infrastructure, how things are currently running. Figure 4 and figure 5 give us an idea of how they will be running now. And one thing I want you to understand, had the FedNow not been activated, this would not work. And according to MTech, you can see here, Federal Reserve, digital cash blockchain, and my man's Chris, that digital cash blockchain in MTech's eyes is Hedera. And you can see the second proposed infrastructure here. Federal Reserve Bank, Commercial Bank 1, Commercial Bank 2, Chris and his homegirl, consumers. This is the exact same structure as the FedNow instant payment system, modernizing the U.S. payment infrastructure. FedNow servers will modernize U.S. payment infrastructure and provide a range of use cases and benefits to financial institutions, individuals, and business. So, a couple things I want to point out here. Remove everything that they've told you about the privacy issues and the fear mongering and all of that centered around the FedNow. If you're holding payment coins, we just got the biggest catalyst we're probably going to get for the next 10 years. The biggest catalyst we're going to get for the next 10 years, because the key word here, payment infrastructure. All right, payment infrastructure. And yes, people will say about HBAR, oh, this ain't going to affect the price. The governing council is just going to keep dumping tokens and keep dumping tokens. Well, let me ask you this. What happens when there's no more tokens left to dump? Because you have to understand something about how Hedera works. It's application driven. All of the tokens that are in circulation, that are within the max supply, are allocated towards applications and use cases. And a large amount of them are in the United States already. Atma.io, Avery Dennison, Boeing, ServiceNow. Shall I continue? FIS. All right. Again, we are mere months away. I believe months away from an announcement. FIS, Hedera, FedNow, new application. All right. And then tokenomics aside, let's talk about the operational power of Hedera here. All right. Hedera transaction volume blast off by 40x in Q1 of this year. All right. While that price was down, while people was complaining about the tokenomics, the performance, ladies and gentlemen, just like I say with Binance, I don't care what you tell me, it's about the performance. Hedera can perform under these conditions. And again, like I mentioned, it's the fact that Hedera is an American-made company based in Texas with an open source technology that they don't have to worry about being registered as a security or not. People can just plug and play into the Hedera network. 1/3 of their governing council, all US based companies. The majority of them are also a part of the presidential technology initiative that we talked about a second ago. You can't tell me that Hedera isn't in the right position. I'm sorry. You just can't tell me that. And I cannot forget this. And you know what? I'm going to type this in just to show you. UDPN Hedera's. All right. All right. You see it. You see it. You see it. Not the holograph sticker mules, but you see it. Pull this video up, guys. I need you to go and look at this video. HBAR council member builds Universal Digital Payments Network on Hedera. We're talking about DLA Piper using the Toko platform, which makes use of the Hedera token service to facilitate instant payments across the globe. This was announced in China, which is also another interesting detail too when you're looking at FedNow documentations. You know that, and this was pointed out to me this morning by Catherine. I hate that I'm so bad with names, but she's the one out there in Wyoming trying to lobby for credit unions and smaller banks to have access to master accounts so that way they can participate in the FedNow. This is what she found. So this company here, Aiden, this is a EU-based company, right? And when you read the FedNow documentation, it does state that not only will all U.S. banks make use of this, but non-U.S. banks and other central banks as well. Again, this part will be addressed in that other video for the DHN Crypto Docs channel. But for right now, if you're holding Hedera, I'm telling you, we're on to something. Only time will tell, though. I'm going to tell you that. Only time will tell. But I'm going to go back to this tweet right here, leave it on the screen, screenshot it, or follow me on Twitter because I'm giving you the honest game. A lot of people are about to be deceived in this time. A lot of people are about to be deceived. I do not want you to be one of those people. Again, non-bank participants are not allowed to use FedNow, but can offer services to qualified banking participants. It's the third-party connections. The third-party connections. Whether it's from a company that's on the service provider showcase, which we will touch on Metal Blockchain in that second video. But here's what's being publicized and what's coming from the publicized list. HBAR, XLM, XRP. It's clear as day, ladies and gentlemen. Now, as we get out of here, I'm going to put both videos up on the screen here. XLM, XRP. And we can take your pick, but it's going to show you the exact same thing. We're going to get the exact same message here. It's not going to be a direct connection. That would be too easy. But they just told us. They just told us. Non-bank participants are not allowed to use it, but they can offer services to the qualified banking participants. What does that mean to you? That's all I got for this one. If you found value in this content, of course, there are a few things that I need you to do for me. Hit that like, subscribe, ring the notification bell so that way you don't miss the next one. And as always, I want you to have a great day, have a prosperous day. And most importantly, if that money is digital, so is the hustle. I'm Wade Teamer. I'll see you in the next one.
The Federal Reserve announcing it has gone live with its new FedNow instant payment system, a system that should allow households and businesses to send payments and receive money immediately without those troubling 3-day holds on checks and waiting for payments to clear in the sender's account and waiting for the bank to open on Monday or after a holiday. The FedNow system is an instant payment system. It's available 24/7, 365 days a year. To begin with, 35 banks and 16 service providers have already signed up. Those banks include things like JP Morgan and Wells Fargo, as well as smaller credit unions and other banks. Unclear if the banks are going to charge for this instant payment. They are charged, but they may or may not pass that along to consumers. Fed Chair Jay Powell saying in a press release, over time, as more banks choose to use this tool, the benefits to individuals and businesses will include enabling a person to immediately receive a paycheck or a company to instantly access funds when an invoice is paid. This doesn't eliminate the PayPals and the Venmos of the world or Zelle. Theoretically, they could use the FedNow system, which is a bank-to-bank system, to send payments, but it's unclear, guys, if those services now face a new challenge from banks of all sizes that can offer similar services. Sarah?
But bottom line, faster payments, good for consumer, right, Steve?
I think so, Sarah. That's exactly right. I think you get there and you don't have those holds on the checks. Look, if you have money in your account and you send money to somebody else with an account, obviously they can take that money out, but there's actually a hold on that account. It's really for people who don't have that money on account. Say a small business guy who's doing a big project, gets a payment, has to wait till that payment clears. It could really help them out.